Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today at Money Chat by StashAway. I'm Nandini. I'm the COO at StashAway. And today we're really privileged to have Raja Al Mazrouei with us, who is the Executive Vice President of the FinTech Hive at DIFC, and really one of the most powerful and influential women leaders, and a great example. So thank you so much, Raja, for taking the time and joining us today.
Thank you, Nandini, for the opportunity and for having me today, and also for introducing me to your network. I hope these conversations add value to whoever is listening, because their time is precious, and hopefully we can contribute to that.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of people will appreciate having an insight into your thoughts and some advice from you. So I'll get right into it, because entrepreneurship in the region and empowerment of women and through education is something that is very close to us at StashAway as well. Not just in this region, but largely, entrepreneurship has still been very male dominated. But however, there have been a lot of strides made, and especially, Dubai has been such a great example, and the FinTech Hive has been such a great example. So we would love to hear, your thoughts on how can we empower more women to take entrepreneurship, really getting right into it, what initiatives you think have played an active role in the industry over here.
So there is a statement I always say: women are powerful in the way they are. They don't need to be empowered. All that they need to know that there is an opportunity, and it's up to them to really take up that opportunity. That opportunity is equally available for men and women. As women, we prioritize family, we prioritize other commitments than, believing in our ability or, availability to contribute and create something very impactful. However, it is up to us to say, this opportunity is available. Let's go ahead, find out what is the outcome. And it's okay to fail, and it's okay to make mistakes, because that's how we learn. We're not born with a guideline or with a manual on how to get things right from the very beginning. Now, I don't like to talk gender-wise, but men are able to take risks. They are able to take that decision without, going through all the details of this decision. What if I can't make it? What if something goes wrong? What if? They don't have the what ifs that we have. And as much as we allow those what if scenarios to grow in our minds, they will stop us from really achieving. However, there are plenty of examples of women who put those what if scenarios to mute and explore the opportunities, and we're able to showcase their capability of taking on these roles. So there is nothing that's stopping us other than ourselves. The minute you believe in yourself and you say, you know what, I accept the fact that I could fail, I could succeed. Let's just try and find out. And if we fail, if we make mistakes, we learn from them and we grow from there. So it's honestly really being okay, accepting the challenge, not questioning as much, and being able to take that step forward. And that's what honestly happened with me. The first time I decided to take on FinTech, I asked my friends, and it's like, there is this FinTech role in the DIFC, and I'm going to take that. FinTech? What is FinTech? Are you sure? Do you know FinTech? What if it fails? What if it this? What if that? And if listened to them, I wouldn't have been where I am today.
Absolutely.
However, I decided to explore. And I thought, nobody knows FinTech? Great. If I succeed, everybody will know about it. If I fail, nobody will know about it, because nobody knew about it at that time. And honestly, taking those chances and, taking decisions on these deliverables and milestones that will enable us as women and men to really take those steps forward.
I think it's such an important point that you make, which is about, the conditioning that we sometimes just let it take over us. That, to your point, like, we have to go through like 5 what ifs, and, we are just conditioned sometimes to think in that manner, and to be able to put that aside. And I think your example of, just saying, okay, I'm going to try it out is so similar, but a lot of people don't hear about, that yes, those type of taking chances has equal, success opportunities as well, and not just the failure opportunities.
Exactly.
Because similarly, I worked in the fashion industry for 10 years before I moved to the finance industry. And, again, it's to say you have skill sets, you have abilities, they can be put to, sometimes to the test. But if you don't put them to the test, if you don't try it out, you're never actually going to know. And then, not doing it is the only option that you are creating for yourself, rather than going into it. And so I think it's really important that people think about where that conditioning sets in versus, where you think you really don't have a skill set. And those skill sets can also be learned, and they can, you can invest time into them. So I think for you, if it would be very helpful to understand, how can the ecosystem and what can people do every day to really get themselves out of this mindset? What have you seen as the first step that people can take, or, how can they get better advice around, taking more risk?
I think reaching out within the network and to a support system is very important, because that's your sounding board. That's the people that will tell you yes or no. These are the people who will look at your blind spots. I always seek feedback and, criticism in a way. Because if they say you lack this, I don't take it as in an offense. I say, okay, I lack this, which means I need to develop this. Thank you for your feedback. It's been impressive for me because it highlighted an area of development for me. But that person feels bad highlighting your weaknesses or areas of development, which shouldn't be the case, because that's the way for us to grow outside of our comfort zone. So I think it's really important to connect with the ecosystem, connect with the community, and ask questions. And for me, I've been with the FinTech Hive, and that's the beginning of my journey with the startups in 2017. And I realized that the startups, the founders, come and ask for the world. Introduce me to this person. I need funds. I need to use this desk. I need this room. I need to go. And they don't feel bad asking about it for these things. But a woman will not ask the same. She will ask herself 100 times before coming and saying, Raja, can you introduce me to Emirates MBD, for example? And I realized that as women, we don't ask. We feel that it takes away something from us, but it doesn't, because you will never know unless you ask. So if you're connected within the network and you feel safe and you feel confident that the collective network works in your favor, then you'll be comfortable asking and networking and connecting to develop and create impact. Because at the end of the day, all of these fintech solutions are addressing main issues in the industry, whether it's financial inclusion, whether it's including more people within the financial system, improving the customer experience, accessing asset classes that are not available to the normal individual. All of these enable the consumers to access economy. And this is a social impact more than anything else. And once you believe in your purpose, in what you're delivering and what you are contributing to the economy, you wouldn't feel bad about asking, because you're doing it for the good of everyone. And I think being connected, I believe that being connected and supported within an ecosystem is crucial. And this is what we're trying to create within the FinTech Hive. We have the regulators, we have the financial institutions, the lawyers, the tech firms, the lifestyle firms. All of them work together to support the fintechs. We advocate fintech startups. I don't get anything out of their business, but what I get is I'm contributing to developing a sector within the economy that enables more people access the economy and access those services, which has a huge indirect impact that is being created through myself and my team.
Yeah, and I know that you recently shared on LinkedIn, from the minister that, UAE is looking to power, 30 unicorns in the region over here. What are your thoughts around, how women can really take advantage of this ecosystem, getting out and all? But are there any specific things, not just for women, but, overall, that are available, and what are the additional steps that could be helpful for them, to think big. I think unicorn, to be part of that unicorn universe, you really need to think big, and how can women actually push themselves to think that big and say, okay, I'm going to go out and actually, follow the dream after this.
So if I look at the UAE in particular, because this is the country I live in and the government that I'm working with and the jurisdiction that I interact with on a daily basis, I can tell you there is an ecosystem that enables entrepreneurs, men and women. There are financial institutions that are ready to work with these solutions. There are funds and VCs that are specifically investing in female co-founded businesses. So I think this is a privilege, to be able to go and say, I only invest in female co-founded businesses. So this is a very unique opportunity for women. And I'm working with Standard Chartered right now on a Women in Tech program. They're giving seed capital and they're giving mentorship and support to 7 female co-founded businesses from the region to help them grow and scale. So the opportunities for women are of an additional value. Men don't get the same, And I think that if we only open our eyes and ears to what's there in the ecosystem, we will be able to connect. In the DIFC FinTech Hive, we run a female talent accelerator program. It's called Accelerator. In this program, we introduce these women to all the tech and ecosystem partners that are providing pro bono services to startups. This is access to growth. The second thing, it offers speed mentorship for these women by CEOs of financial industries who are giving their times pro bono. We have the CEO of Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank. We have the CEO of Standard Chartered Bank. We have the CEO of Citibank. We have CEO of Visa. They're all giving few hours of their time to talk to these women, not men. They're talking to these women saying, these are the things you need to consider within your career if you want to grow, if you want to scale, or if you want to partner. So having that unique access to that experience or to that mentor is very precious. And if we only open our eyes as women to what is available around, we will be able to take much faster steps to growth compared to men within the domain, because we have created a special fast track solution for women. I continue to talk about it, whether it's in this webinar, I spoke about it yesterday and every time, because I think we just need to continue talking about it, create awareness and enable more women understand that there are focus tracks for women, because we need women in finance, in technology, in entrepreneurship. They represent 50% of the economy, and we cannot, ignore the fact that most of them take the household decisions. They control the economy one way or another by investments or by consumption or whatever decisions they take within their own, areas of responsibilities. So if you look at women entrepreneurs, they have a very special track within the UAE, I'm sure in other jurisdictions, and I think you can bring in an example from what's happening in Singapore. But I think
Absolutely.
Whoever is focused on getting something out, they will find out the fast track and the best way to do it, because there is an enabling ecosystem to create it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think, even in Southeast Asia, there has been a lot of focus on helping women entrepreneurs, just get over the initial hurdles of taking that leap into it. And I think mentorship especially has played a really big role into it. And especially, as there are more and more women leaders, I think mentorship by women helps so much, because you are able to visualize a path to success so much better when, you can see other women leaders in the position. And I think that itself, just helps psychologically for women to think, I can be there. And, this doesn't need to be a male dominated path, or the only way to success should not be, doesn't have to be about just mimicking the way men have succeeded. So I think definitely that helps. And, even from a gender pay gap perspective, even if, we're not talking about entrepreneurship, but really women taking on more important roles overall in the economy. UAE advanced 41 ranks last year. There's always more to grow, but I think it's just such a fantastic number to have, leapfrogged by 41 ranks to close the gender pay gap. For you, what are the initiatives that, other countries or companies, individuals who are in the position to make a change or difference can learn from, what UAE has done in the last year?
So the UAE has shown, I would say, led by example at the government level. If you look at our cabinet, almost 50% are female represented. We have many female ambassadors. We have many female ministers. And I'm really proud to say that Her Excellency Sara Al Amiri led the UAE space mission. And this is something that, is based on science. She's a scientist, and she led the team of scientists for the Mars probe mission. Then we have Her Excellency Reem Al Hashmi, who was in charge of the whole Expo 2020. And regardless of all the issues that she went through with the Expo 2020 and the pandemic, and then, the social distancing and the whole thing has changed, but she was very resilient, very focused, and she managed to put a great show out there. And we're also proud of her. We are very proud of her. And if you look in financial services, I think we are proud of all the women that have really take on bold moves within financial services. We have Rula Abu Manna, who's the first CEO, Emirati female CEO of Standard Chartered Bank in the UAE. There is Hana Rostomani, she's the CEO of First Abu Dhabi Bank in the UAE. We have Elisar Antonius Farah, she's the CEO of Citibank. Yes. And I met, by coincidence, last week, Shourouq Al Muhaid. She is the first Saudi CEO of Goldman Sachs in the UAE. So there is an open mind towards inclusion in the workplace. But what can we do more? What we have to do is lead by example. The UAE government has led by example by including more women in the leadership, and also by empowering the community to be proud of these contributions from a female perspective. Today, when I stand out there and I talk about the FinTech Hive, I'm so proud because I know the value that I'm creating to the DIFC, to the financial services sector, and to the UAE as a whole. And yesterday, we were in a session with Elisar, and we were discussing some of the issues that corporates could do actually to include more women. We looked at inclusive networking. Mm-hmm. Networking is part of your career, whether you like it or not. Women do not prioritize networking because they have other commitments. They have the kids, the house, this and that. But whether you like it or not, it's part of your career growth. But what are the networking options that work for both men and women? Breakfast lunches don't work for men as much as they work for women, but then the after work and the evening kind of events work more for men. So there's this new concept about inclusive networking, which means something that works for both genders, so that we both get inclusive opportunities to contribute. The other thing is with the pandemic and the acceleration of digital services. Today, you are able to include more people in the conversation through technology, whether they're in Dubai or in Singapore or in the UK, it doesn't matter. Through Teams and through Zoom, you can bring everyone into the same room and include all of these views and opinions. So I think we came a long way from where we were a few years ago. Leading by example is important. I love quotas, although so many people don't like them, but I personally believe in them. The Emirates Securities and Commodities Authority have mandated all publicly listed boards to have at least one woman on each board. Is a bold step, because if they don't make it mandatory, it will never happen. So I don't mind quotas. I don't mind, these ways of including gender diversity, and diversity in general, I think is even more important. But I think all of these steps are important to create a more balanced workplace.
I think, I hear you on the point, and I think, for me, I agree that quotas is an effective way to just kick off the change. For people to get out of something that they think has always worked for them, and therefore, what is the need for it to be any different? And I think people get used to what they see every day, and quotas, even historically, quotas have been a way to just instigate change and get people out of thinking that, oh, just because it has been working for me so far, I actually don't need to bring about a change, but to be able to make things work for more people. And I think the part of inclusive networking is really important, because I think a lot of times helping women sometimes becomes about creating women-only spaces, which again cannot be part of a long-term solution.
Exactly.
It has to be that at some point of time you actually can arrive at a situation where it won't matter, and that ensuring that it is seamlessly working for both genders is so important. And the changes that not just women have to make, and a lot of the onus of the changes still sits on the women, but how men have to also think about that there is so much benefit for them as part of the economy, as both as professional and part of the personal changes, because we run a lot of investing for women seminars, and we find that a lot of men attend investing for women seminars because they feel that it will be better if the women in their life are actually part of this world and are able to be independent, and they want to have the tools to be able to help. So I definitely think the long-term solution is still about inclusiveness and everybody not having to rely on every time a separate space, but whatever helps instigate that change at this moment is still a very helpful step. So, you mentioned about the pandemic and, the changes that the pandemic made us realize, what is important, what is not important, what actually didn't matter, or how things could be different. How have you found, further that the pandemic has either simplified certain things for women entrepreneurs or has made it difficult?
So, honestly speaking, the pandemic has made everyone pause for a second and realize their priorities in life. And then immediately, as soon as we figured that we couldn't go to the office and we needed to log in online, we switched to that technology platform and realized that women found it more difficult because they had kids, and these kids needed to get onto online education platforms, which they need to understand and follow up and all of that. And I think that was not fair for women, because with their partners, the understanding and the setup is that the women take care of kids and education, and then their partners are taking care of business. But with that, and I think the biggest eye-opener for us was, and I'm speaking from my own experience because my kids moved onto online platforms, and I had many webinars and meetings and I had to log into, and then they were knocking on my door and they're like, I can't get into this class and I can't get into, I was like, go talk to your dad. I am busy. And then he went and spoke to his dad, and his dad helped him get onto the platform. I feel that women absorb the responsibility naturally and not express their need to prioritize what is going on. And I think the pandemic was not fair for women in general, because they had to take care of the house, the kids, the online platforms, understanding the different online platforms that the kids were on, plus logging on to their own companies or their businesses. And I think their ability to voice their concerns by saying, this is my time and I need to do this, and asking for help again, talking about it, expressing the issue and asking and seeking for help. Because if you don't go to your partner and say, I need your help with this, he will never assume that you really need it. He will assume that you're in control of everything and everything is great.
The status quo is
Exactly.
really great. It's very comfortable.
So for me, honestly, that hit me at the beginning but then the kids started getting used to their platforms and everything was okay. But then, we had to take decisions on what to cook for lunch. And I was like, why am I involved in these decisions now?
Why should I have to think of the lunch?
So I think it's important to understand where we are, what are our priorities. And if something is not working, is to reach out for support, whether it's from a partner, whether it's from a support system that is around you, because it's available. And unless you reach out, nobody will know that you need support. And for women, I would like to say that it is okay to reach out and ask for help. It doesn't take anything away from you as a super mom or a hero mom or whatever. You can reach out, ask for help from family members, from partners, from, support system, and get everything in order to maintain your passion towards your career, your business, and also maintain the balance in life and work.
No, I really recognize it because I have a son and a daughter. My daughter is she's 10 and my son is 12, and through the pandemic it hit me that now that she sees me in the house all day long because she's also at home, it became so real about being able to say, okay, she is going to learn and she is going to get conditioned by what she sees. If she sees that, her dad is only sitting in another room and never gets disturbed and, is only in his meeting, but it's always going to mama and, mama can be disturbed at any point of time and mama can apologize in her meetings that, I have to, quickly go and do something else. That's how conditioning starts for more people. And, then she is going to
be conditioned exactly the same way.
Exactly. So, for me, very quickly as well, it became about, okay, one person has to take one kid, the WhatsApp group of the school, one WhatsApp group my husband has to be part of, I will be part of one WhatsApp group. It has to be, an equal division. And similarly, in investing and financial decisions, we always hear, a lot of women, and there's research done on it, where women say they don't get into it because they say, we have a divide and conquer approach. So, I take care of other things and the finances are taken care of by the partner. And, we usually try to share with people that, finances are just so crucial to your overall well-being and how they power your goals, whether you want to be an entrepreneur in the future, what point you want to retire, that it's almost equivalent to how you think about your own health. You will not send your partner in lieu of yourself to the doctor if you think, you need help with something. And it's the same thing, you will take your temperature yourself. You want to know what my temperature is if I'm not feeling well. You're not going to ask your partner that, okay, you can go and tell my symptoms to the doctor. And I think certain things women have to start to say, this is not about, I have to prioritize myself and, making sure that your work, your goals are just as important as the family goals is a huge step. I hope a lot of people have been able to take during the pandemic, because I think it just became so visually apparent. But I think, as women have those conversations, and I think a lot of people did get pushed into, making that decision, should I have that difficult conversation? How would you advise, those people who are still, trying to think, how do I have this difficult conversation of things have to be divided differently?
Yeah, I'll tell you the reality, for me at least, and that opened my eyes, and I started sharing this with some of my friends. So because I ended up somehow in the fintech world, I am surrounded by different applications. And I was like, okay, this is an excellent opportunity for me to invest my money, because I was born and raised to have an income and dispose this income. I was not raised to invest or, grow my money, because that was not my responsibility. It was my husband's responsibility. So when I realized that I had that option, I started opting up for some solutions where I could, put some of my income, and then I was going through the KYC process. And the biggest shock for me was, to do the KYC process, I needed an asset in my name. And I realized that I don't. And I was like, but I live in this house with my husband. It's in his name. And they're like, no, we can't create this account for you. I was like, why? This is my income. This is my money. And then I started to realize more deeply the bigger issues is that, yes, we are brought into this system where, all assets are merged and we are part of each other's systems. But I can't open an investment account for myself. And I can't open a bank account for my kids. My husband could open the account for them, but I couldn't. Why? So I started asking all of these questions that enabled me to understand that I need to push all of these barriers to enable myself and other women access investment opportunities. It's not only about the solutions that are available in the market, it's how do I access them? And then I started to talk about this. More and more women reached out to me and they're like, we didn't realize that we couldn't do that. I was like, make sure you have at least one asset in your name. Mm-hmm. And then, that's the beginning of the awareness process. Yeah. The income is available, the investment funds are available, but how do you put them to work for you? It's financial literacy. Yes. And unless I went through this experience myself, I wouldn't have known about it. Mm-hmm. Because within my culture, within my community, the woman is taken care of. We don't worry about anything. Mm-hmm. And I don't need to worry about anything, but I choose to understand my financials because I run the FinTech Hive. I am in the heart of the financial services sector, and I need to understand all of that. And this what really enabled me to pinpoint all the issues that needed to be resolved to enable more women access financial services instruments. Mm-hmm. The solutions are there, but how do we get there is the biggest question. And this is why I talk about it very freely, and I try to create awareness about all of these issues so women start to look back and say, because some of them own massive assets, but they're not in their names. Yeah. So once you start looking at your assets and your investments and planning your future, because your money needs to work for you, so you could, Absolutely. At least enjoy life without pressure. And if you don't understand the basics of these investments and options that are available for you, then it's a waste of time and money, unfortunately.
Yeah, and we all work way too hard.
So hard
to not actually to afterwards get pushed back by such administrative things, right? And that would really be a pity. So maybe a little bit going back to the entrepreneurial journey, Raja. What would be your advice, to women who are in the thick of the journey? And usually, a lot of times, the journey is not very easy, and there are ups and downs. And to your point earlier, we already put so much pressure on us of the what if, and then when we are in the thick of it, all entrepreneurial journeys have their ups and downs. What would be your advice to the women who are maybe the pandemic hasn't been the easiest time in their entrepreneurial journey? How can they stick with it, and how can they come out the other side in just resilience?
I would say, because maybe I am going through something right now, I am very passionate about an idea that I want to bring to life, and I think whoever wants to take this path needs to understand the value they're creating, whether they're solving a solution or bridging a gap or providing something unique to the market. What it is, they need to understand the competitive advantage that they're bringing. Because if you don't understand it, you won't be able to communicate it to me. I won't listen to you for more than 5 minutes, then that's it. So they need to understand that 100%. Then they need to have a purpose, a focus, and a vision. Why am I doing this? Because by doing this, I will be spending hundreds of hours taken away from family and friends and everything else to bring this product to life. Why do I want to do it? It should have some meaning, whether it's impact, whether it's social contribution, whether it's financial contribution, it doesn't matter, as long as it translates to something. And then just having confidence in one's capability to really deliver this. Resilience, as you said. Resilience, because so many businesses were started before the pandemic, and the pandemic shut them down, and some of them exponentially grew beyond the pandemic. So if you believe in yourself, you know what you're solving, and you are resilient to work with different market dynamics, you'll be able to grow and scale this business, because at some points you'll be raising funding from some investors, and then the responsibility becomes much bigger because it's not your own money. You are responsible for investors' funds that you've promised to grow these businesses to multiples. You are enabling a certain segment of the market to access those services. You are fulfilling a purpose, and you are content because all of these results ends up in that satisfaction moment where you say, I did it, I've created jobs, I've enabled individuals to access, I've done inclusion. Whatever it translates to you, it has to be clear from the very beginning. And once it's clear to a woman or even a man, once it's clear on the purpose and the vision and understanding, then taking the bet to get on that journey will take you to where you want to be. And I think that's the most important thing. It's not about understanding tech or marketing. All of that will come throughout, but that's the beginning.
Yeah, I think knowing your why is and keeping that as a continuous North Star is just so important. We have a couple of questions that have come in. One of the I know you answered about some of the women-led initiatives over here, but there's a question also about what should women look for in mentorship?
So understanding your purpose is really important. I was having a chat with a friend of mine, and she said, I want to build my digital profile online, personal brand. I was like, what's your outcome? What do you want out of it? And she said, everyone does it. I said, no. You can do it. That's easy. But what purpose you want it to serve? That will take you from where you are to where you want to be. And for mentorship, what do you want out of it? Mentorship, for example, I look at it and accelerate her. The reason why I picked women from early stage in their career is that reflecting back on my journey, when I started, I'm not going to say how many years that was.
None of us want to talk about that.
But if I had access to that mentorship, I would have been able to take proper decisions towards career options. I was frustrated sometimes. I didn't know how to deal with certain situations. And there were critical decisions on the table that I could not take. But if I had access to a mentor or someone who's been through this experience, it would have accelerated my journey. I took the long route, which is fine. But now I know the value by plugging this person with this young professional who is trying to make a decision within their life. And the women I look at are in financial services. And what I want them to understand is the opportunity in tech and innovation. And once they understand that, they'll be able to take that decision. Let me combine my education with my experience and venture into tech. It's okay to go into tech. I might fail, I might not, I might grow. It's fine. But being comfortable taking that decision. And that will come from mentorship. It will come from your sounding board that will say, you know what? 20 years ago, I've done that, and this was the result. So you will get access to these learnings in a much faster way than going through the experience on your own.
Yeah, I agree. I think, personally also I've been very lucky to have some, good mentors, both women and men, who were more focused on my goals and, how can I play to my strengths rather than always thinking about, which are my weaknesses that I have to continuously, overcome. I think mentors also help you just position yourself more towards your strengths and going after that rather than continuously beating yourself up like, because I still can recognize my weaknesses, I actually have to first overcome them to move forward. So I think just helping people get that perspective right, and especially for women is really, really important. We have another question is, what do you suggest as the top 3 most important first steps in entrepreneurship? So do I need to incorporate a business first? Can I do that later? What, when I have so it's related to, I have a fintech related business idea. What do you suggest as the top 3 most important steps?
So in my opinion, and I'm not an entrepreneur, I haven't built anything myself, but I've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs. And I think the number 1 step to take is really to validate that idea. Because in your mind, it could be the idea that will solve the world problems. But once you start talking to me, to you, and to others, you realize it's not as important or not as relevant. So validating the idea within a peer group will give you an insight towards the potential success of this idea. The second thing is making sure that once you take the first step, you have access to all of these tech development resources, the business development resources, the marketing resources, because an idea will translate into a solution leveraging all of that infrastructure. You can't take it to life without having that system in place. Number 3, you need to think about growth and scale. You will be solving a problem for the time being, 1 or 2 years, and this should eventually translate into commercial value. And if, for example, the UAE population segment, whatever, translates into X result, what's next for me to grow this idea? And if it's not scalable, then you probably need to rethink about the proposition. So I would say these are the top 3 things to think about when coming up with the business idea.
Okay, great. We have one other question, which is, do you think failure is an empowering tool for creating new ideas?
Of course. I don't know who asked this, but I truly believe that failure really opens your mind towards what works and what doesn't, because unless you've taken that idea to life, you wouldn't know if it's working or not. And we should create a safe environment for people to fail. If I fail in one of my projects, I have the support of my management who says, okay, you tried that this year, did not work, do something else next year. But if I am being responsible for this failure over and over and over, I will not be able to move away from it. What I would do in an enabling, supportive environment is take all the learnings from that failure and translate it into something successful.
Absolutely. I mean, I think so many times you hear some people say, oh, I want my team to think out of the box, but I have no framework for my team to be able to fail. Thinking out of the box means you will fail sometimes. Otherwise people want to stay in the box if there is no framework for, failure and from moving on. So if you want that you have high-performing teams or you work with high-performing people and you want them to continuously think out of the box, then that, failure is just the other side of the coin. You cannot separate those 2 out. And it's very important to, not just in entrepreneurship, but even in corporates, to actually ensure that there is a well-understood culture of framework of failure, so that people do think about the larger purpose, and going after a larger purpose will mean you're trying to see which is not the totally paved road. Otherwise, your competition, everybody is only on the same road. Exactly. and it's no fun.
And if I see you all the time and you tell me all the great things I'm doing, I'm not learning or developing, right? But if you tell me, Raja, by the way, I noticed you did this on that day and I don't think it worked in the best way you meant it to, you leave me with a thought that I'll be thinking about and reflecting on and finding ways to improve whatever I have done. And this is what I seek personally. I don't want you to tell me how great my work is. Tell me the areas where I can develop and improve, because that will keep me competitive, relevant, and also integrated with my community.
Yeah, and the more, in entrepreneurship, especially, the more we think like this, the more at the end consumers win.
Absolutely.
Because, at the end, we are all trying to drive value for the end consumer. But if all of us are only on the same road and we never venture out, and in that circle, we are also consumers of somebody else, and you want that the consumers are winning at the end for it. Great. We have one last question, which is how can women start to invest? I think the most important thing.
I think you should answer that, right?
I think the most important thing is to just start by understanding, having the knowledge, looking up, reading about it, and understanding again what are the goals that you want to achieve. Investing is a way to achieve those goals. It's not an end-all goal itself. So again, knowing what are your larger life goals. And then, just starting with the education. So, attend the webinars or, attend the free courses that are available either with StashAway or otherwise on the internet. There's just so much information that people can access today. But yeah, and, start small, even if it is 50, 100, 150 dirhams, it doesn't matter. I think just starting to build knowledge is really important, first of all. Thank you so much, Raja, for taking the time today and for sharing your thoughts and sharing your personal examples. I think it's really important that people are able to know that the success stories also continuously drive themselves. They go through the same challenges and they have to overcome the same hurdles as everyone else out there. So I think it's really, really inspirational for people to be able to hear from someone like you. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm honestly honored to be here with you today. And I'm always really excited and happy to see female founders or running critical roles within startups, because I know that they can do it. I know some of them shy away from it, but having people like you out there will inspire so many more. So don't shy away from whatever you're doing. Continue to talk about your experience, share, and inspire many more to follow your steps. Thank you so much for having me. It's been my honor. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.